and welcome to my channel, Maine's Mine. So today we are going to be talking about 6 different oil painting brands and how they compare to each other. So a little background, I used to always use Georgian oil paints. I have used Georgian oil paints since I started painting. They were the first oil paint kit that I bought. And then just kind of went from there, and over the years I would buy them and just kind of stockpile them. But this year I started running out of some of the paints, and that left me needing to buy more. When I went to the local arts and crafts store, I was surprised that the only brand they carried was Master's Touch. That was the only one that I could find at that particular store. Since then I found others, but I was a little upset by that because I've never used that brand and I didn't know if I was gonna like it. So I went online, Blick art supply store online, and I ordered 4 other brands, and I decided to compare all 6 of them and just kind of compare the texture, what kind of oils they were made with, you know, what their dry time was. And so I did all of this, and I did the little experiment, and I recorded my videos, and I thought I had posted it on here, and I realized today that I never made that video. You get to watch the video that I had created comparing 6 oil painting brands and how they compare to each other. Enjoy! We are going to compare these different these different types of paint to see which one I like the best. This is my old Georgian paint that's almost out. There is this titanium white that is a Master's Touch. We have Winston and Newton. We have Blick brand name. We have Gamblin, and we have Rembrandt. Okay, so to start my little experiment, I am going to put a dab of each of these paints onto the canvas, starting with the Master's Touch. You can already see a lot of oil spill out of the tube. This one is mixed with refined flax oil. Next is Georgian by Daler-Rowney, and if I'm saying that wrong, please forgive me. This one, I don't know what oil they use to mix the paint. I have reached out to the company but haven't heard back yet. So oil mixed with is still a mystery. Next is Winsor and Newton. This one right here was mixed with safflower oil. Put a little more. The next one is Blick Studio Oil Color. This one right here is also mixed with safflower oil. The Gamblin is the only one in this collection here that uses linseed oil. A matter of fact, Master's Touch uses the refined flax and Gamblin uses the linseed oil. So those are the only 2 with a different mixture. Rembrandt also uses safflower oil in their mixture. This one is the Master's Touch. It came out a lot more when I squeezed it. It's got more of the oil separation. This one right here is the Georgian. You can see that it has more grainy texture to it compared to the smoothness of the other 3. These 3 right here, these 4 right here look similar in consistency compared to this one and this one. This one right here looks similar in consistency to these other ones, but you can see the oil spill out when this one has been sitting for just a little while. This one right here has been sitting for a long time. As you can see, it's been used, and it doesn't quite have as much oil spill out onto this. And this one has a slight amount of oil spill out. I don't know if you can see that. This one does not have any oil soaking into the canvas. Like I said, this one just has a slight, a little, a lot. Okay, so next thing we're going to do, I'm going to just spread it a little bit, and then we're going to wait and let it dry. So right here, we're just going to smooth it out. Just kind of see how it smooths out. Okay, this one doesn't just spread as easily as I'd like. Okay, this one's my Georgian. Much more even spread to it. I say my Georgian. It's the one I've been using forever. That's why it's mine. Spreads easier and also has a lot more texture to it. The Winston. Yep, that spread pretty smooth and pretty. Okay, that was the Winston. This is the Blick. Nice. Nice smooth spread there. Okay, this one is the Gamblin. Oh yeah, that was pretty. Oh yeah. And the Rembrandt. Okay, so what I am going to do now is I'm gonna let this paint dry. This one I hear is still not my favorite. I mean, some people might like this oily texture to it, and that's okay. You know, to each their own. It's not my personal preference. I like the texture of this one, but you can see the oils leaking into the canvas here. You can start to see it with these other ones. Not so much these two here at the end, but you can see it here and here. But this one right here was a little bit more difficult to spread than that one. This one spread really, these last three spread really smooth. So we're gonna give it some time and see how long it takes for it to dry. I'm gonna make this just a little thinner to be kind of fair, just because I'm gonna mostly be looking at this top part here. Okay, and we'll come back and see how this does. Okay, so it is time to check our progress. You'll have to excuse all this mess here. Anybody who has cats knows that cats are evil. And even though I put this up nice and high, my cats decided to step in it and get oil paint all over my studio. So, yeah, I had fun cleaning that mess up. Anyway, so we are on, let me see, I did this on the 4th. I did this on the 4th and today is the 8th. So this paint has been setting for about 4 days. You can see that all of them had like oil spill from them. Not so much this one. This Blick Sapphire oil, if you look, it does not have a lot of spillage. At least from what I can tell, unless it's spilled into the other ones. This one right here was the Windsor. I think I called it Winston last time. Windsor and Newton. So obviously these parts right here of the paint are not going to be dry. Reason being, these are thicker blobs of paint. That takes a long time to dry, a long time. Now, these parts right here where I smoothed it out with the brush, those will be varying levels of dryness. So this finger has paint on it now, but it's right there. So I want to touch it with the other side. Okay, so as you can see, that one is still very wet. I can still move it around. You can tell it's starting to dry because the texture of it is not as smooth, but it is still very wet. This is the Master's Touch with flax oil. This one right here is the Georgian. It has some movement. It is still wet. This texture right here, I probably couldn't paint over. This one I could with a brush and more oil paint. So that would probably be workable. This one right here is pretty dry considering. I mean, you can pull paint off of it, but you see in the canvas move, I had to push down to get it. So that's pretty cool. So the Winston and Newton flaxseed or safflower oil, that one's pretty good. This one right here is the Blick. Oh, wow. Blick with safflower oil. Same for Blick in the Windsor and Newton. But this one's dry. This little spot right here, nothing. Oh, I might have to start trying to paint with this. So it's only been 4 days and this one is dry enough that I could coat on anything with it and it would not mix with my paint. You see this one right here is Gamblin. Since my finger's clean, I'm going to use it on this one. This one right here is the Gamblin with linseed oil. This one right here is still pretty wet and sticky, so as you can see. All right, and then the last one is the Rembrandt. I got my fingers all full of paint. Oh yeah, the Rembrandt is still extremely oily. This one like here had no pull, no texture. I mean, like no pull. Like this one right here, which one was it? This one, I had to pull a little. This one, like my finger got stuck immediately. But this one right here, nice and smooth. I can go back and forth. It's not moving the canvas. So I think it's just going to depend on the texture the consistency you're looking for. If you're looking for something that's going to take a while to dry, you want more oil, something that you can work with because it's going to take you a while to paint the piece, then you might want to go with something that's a little more, I I guess, oily. Something's going to take longer for it to dry. Okay, so my last video was on the 8th. Today's the 13th, so it has actually been 5 days. So we're actually looking at 9 days since I originally did this, because I originally did it on the 4th. Okay, so today we're going to look at, and I'm going to have to apologize, my 7-year-old, a combination of my cat and my 7-year-old have spread the paint around. Yeah, it was all over my table, and I've been finding paint everywhere. So next time in the future, if I do this with anything else, I'm gonna have to make sure I put it up higher. Okay, so this is day 9. Looking at this first one, again, this is the one by Master's Touch that is mixed with flaxseed oil. And as you can see, this part right here, the thinner part is relatively dry. Okay, so pretty dry. That's from those other paints. Let me do this finger. So see, pretty dry. It does feel kind of rubbery, and as you can see when I'm rubbing my finger on it, this part right here is a big glob of paint. So this doesn't really count, because in all honesty, that's going to take a long time to dry anyways. You can see, as you can see, it's starting to dry, surface dry. But if you put any kind of pressure, it would sink down into it. Okay, this one right here is the Georgian oil. The Georgian paint, the one I wasn't sure on what it was mixed with oil-wise. It is dry. This one right here, it's got the little glob that is still kind of wet, but not as wet as this one. Because, you know, yeah. Okay, anyways. Ah! All right, so, but the thinner paint here is just, it's dry. Oh, well. The thinner paint here is dry. Okay, this one right here is the Winsor Newton. This is safflower oil. This one right here is completely dry. Even the blobs are touchable without it coming off. Let me see, I'm gonna put more pressure, more pressure. Yeah, that took quite a bit of pressure for it too. So if you were gonna paint over this, this would be perfect. You could paint over the thick globs and it would be good. So that Winsor and Newton, that was pretty workable. The Blick brand is also mixed with safflower oil. And this one is also completely dry, including the blobs, because I'm pushing on this and it's not even going in. So that's pretty good. So this one's 100% workable after about 14 days. Okay. All right. This is Gablin linseed oil. This is the Gablin brand that's mixed with linseed oil. Okay, so this one has some small little blobs here that are still soft to touch. They're not like getting on my finger, but yeah, this part right here is completely dry. The blobs are still kind of mushy, but they're not seeping through. All right, and then the last one is Rembrandt Safflower. It's the Rembrandt brand mixed with safflower oil. And this one is still wet. You can see that right there. That's just, it's not even a little dry. It's, yeah, their blob is still completely wet. This part is finally dry enough that I can touch it without it sticking to me, but nope, that's not true. So pretty wet, completely wet. Pretty dry, even the blobs are dry. Little, yeah, these are the ones that are a little soft, but they're dry. This one right here, Blick, was the one that is completely dry, 100% workable. This one right here, dry except for the blob. Blob's a little mushy. You can get some paint off of that. The Georgian, the blobs are still kind of wet, but this thinner part is dry, and this thing is still wet, but it's a really big blob. Yeah, this one's still pretty wet, a little rubbery. Okay, my friends, I really hope that you enjoyed that video. I hope that that helps you make a decision on what oil paints work best for you. Now, for me personally, I don't like the oil paints that take a very long time. I love oil painting, and I respect that it takes a long time to dry. And I love that about it, but at the same time, I'm also impatient, because if it takes it longer to dry, that allows me to have more time to work the paints, redo them, you know, blend them later if I need to. But sometimes I need them to dry a little bit faster so that I can paint over it or paint next to it without causing the blending. And so I will probably go with something a little bit more in the middle, like the Blick paint or the Winsor. Those will probably be the brands that I go for. But, you know, hopefully this will give you some direction when you're choosing your brands. Okay, if you have any comments, please comment below. And please don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell for more great content. See you next time.